Okay, so how's everybody doing today? Okay. Um, have any of you received an alert from the university on your phones? Okay, so that's total bullshit. Somebody pressed the wrong button and scared everybody in the university, or at least everybody who subscribes to this system. So there's nothing to be alarmed about on campus today, except the cold weather is probably the biggest danger. Okay, so in any case, we'll have our lecture today. So before I start, anybody want to ask me anything? How did it go with assignment 3? Okay. So oddly enough, assignment 3, which in my mind is the biggest and most open-ended of the 3 assignments, more people submitted it than either assignment 1 or assignment 2. So it seems that these kind of open-ended things are nice in the sense that more people get interested enough to do the assignment at least. I don't know what the grades will be like. That's not really important to me as much as it is to you. But it's important that you try and that we do things that sort of catch your interest. So last class we had just started working on the beginnings of a game that was going to be a pub night trivia game. And I told you that I'd gotten this file, this list of questions from some website. I paid $20 for it and got, I don't know, maybe 1,000 or so of these pub night questions. And we were going to make a game around those. It was multiple choice. There were 4 options for each question. But what I learned after I bought the file and from using this thing before is this thing was really designed for pub nights in either in England or in let's say warm islands that are frequented by Englanders. So the questions are really sort of let's say Brit-centric. And they have a certain age demographic in mind as well. So it's like if you're a middle-aged to old man, British man, living in England or visiting one of these warm Caribbean islands, then these are the kinds of questions you might be able to answer. So they're not that exciting to me because I'm much younger than middle age, and certainly not exciting to you because you're much, much younger than middle age. So what I discovered with a little bit of searching is actually online you can find a list of 216,000 Jeopardy questions. It's about 85% of all the Jeopardy questions that have ever appeared in any episode of Jeopardy, which I think are probably more compelling and more interesting to make a game around. But there's a catch. Jeopardy questions are not multiple choice questions. They're open-ended questions, and you're supposed to write the answer in the form what is something, or who is someone. We'll not treat this as a clone of Jeopardy, so we won't have to write answers in the form what is or who is. We won't have to write our answers in the form of a question. But we will have to deal with the fact that we'll be answering full text answers and somehow have to try and handle that as well as possible. So here's the file that I managed to get, jeopardyquestions.csv. So let's take a quick look at it. We'll want to go widescreen for this. Okay, so this, you can guess by the file name, is a CSV file similar to what we've seen. CSV typically stands for something like comma-separated values. It's not a real standard. It's sort of something that was just developed probably from spreadsheet manufacturers and just other people who wanted to exchange data. That said, I think actually CSV files are one of the most exciting things to happen to data, let's say, ever. And the reason is they're very simple. You can open them, for example, with a text editor and figure out exactly what the format is. So they're simple to parse, simple to take apart. We saw that we could open one of these things just with a couple of lines of Python, right? We just did an open, a read, and split lines, and then we split each individual line. But the nice thing about them is they kind of democratize data. If you release data in a CSV file, it means that the barrier to accessing that data and using it to do interesting things is very, very low, right? It's a couple of lines of Python code to pull it open, and after an introduction to programming course in Python, you'll be qualified to do this. So those of you who are not taking this course as computer scientists, but as scientists, this is actually a really useful thing you can take from this course, is how to process data, nice sort of tabular data this way, and the really common sort of format for interchanging this stuff is, and really easy format for interchanging this stuff is CSV. There are more complicated structured formats, but very often for simple types of data, CSV is the simplest thing, and it's the one that more people can use than anyone else. I mean, you can open, even if you don't have programming experience, you can open a CSV file with a text editor and start exploring it that way. Okay, so that said, we happen to, up until this point, be working with CSV files that were very simple, but sometimes there's a little bit more to them. So CSV's comma-separated values is what it's supposed to stand for, and ideally that means that you treat this thing as each row of your data is a single line in the file, so there's a new line at the end, and the cells within each row are each separated by a comma. And sometimes the first line in the file is a header, like it is here. So you see, for example, in this file, the first line is this header, which tells you what the various columns mean. Okay. Now, having said that, can you already see a problem with, if I just describe the format that way, do you see a problem that's already present even on this page, which only contains something like the first 10 questions? Comma-separated values. Yep. Not indented properly is not an issue because we're going to read it in and split it up into arrays anyway. Yep. Yeah. So when we say that we're going to separate our columns or our values with commas, well, that means we're introducing a problem that we've already seen before, even with something like strings, right? We saw this problem, you want to make strings, so you put them in double quotes, but, what if you want a double quote inside your string? You need some mechanism for escaping that. So there is no formal CSV format, but there's sort of some typical guidelines for CSV files that are somewhat, some are more standard than others, but the main idea is something like, commas generally separate the values, but some of the values are compound and they're quoted. So that if you see a set of quotes like this, like in this question, here there's double quotes around this thing, that protects the commas inside. So those aren't treated as field separators, but they're just treated as all part of this one field here. Okay. And then there's other things like, well, what if we want commas and double quotes inside of our inside of a single thing? Then we have a problem, and we need some kind of escape character. So we could handle all these things ourselves, But CSV format is so common and so widely used that, of course, like most things that are common and widely used and a little bit hairy to implement yourself, there's stuff already implemented for us to handle these files for us.